Okay, everyone, we have a fine assortment of questions. I hope you are not catching these autumn colds the way I am. Okay, uh, so somebody has written, I have experienced the truth of who we really are, and I know that all you speak, and I know all that you speak about as being how it is. At the same time, the story of me and particular traumas that have happened seem to have an unshakable reality in terms of thoughts. I find it difficult to formulate the precise question that needs to be asked, but please speak about the relationship between this spiritual path and therapy. So we can have moments of opening and relaxing and be more aware, and then they go. Everybody has trauma. Trauma is when the other, something in the environment, the words of a person, the body of a person, a car, a falling tree, something touches us. So trauma is something that marks us, it changes us. Sometimes we have very difficult experiences in life, but after a while they pass and they don't seem to leave any track. Other times we get more of a lasting impact. Thoughts, we interpret thoughts as conveyors of meaning. In order to operate this, we have to have a formulation of an event and somebody who can read that formulation. You know, maybe my parents didn't love me. That might have just felt normal. But then at school, I noticed that other children have a different relation with their parent, and I start to feel something is different, something is wrong. And we can unpack that in many different ways, like it's not fair, it shouldn't happen. So we can blame on the object, there's something wrong with them, they are bad people. Or we can turn it on ourselves, there's something wrong with me, I am unlovable, I drive people away. So, in a sense, the thought is what makes the trauma meaningful, because the thoughts give us a way of thinking about it, why it happened to me, what I could do to change it. The event is past, but my thought about the event seems both real and current. So the grammatical formulation could be my parents never loved me. That's clearly in the past. The verb is the past tense. But when I say it, the feeling tone can seem to be something true right now. So I'm hurting because of something that happened. It has happened, it's over, it's no longer happening. So where is the distress located? Perhaps it's in the sense it shouldn't have happened. I'm entitled to be loved by my parents. So in the mental construct of what a good life would be like for me, I interpret, or I seem to see directly, that the absence of loving affection from my parents has damaged me in some way. This can get very tight. In war, many people are forced to become refugees. They can lose their house, they lose their land, their animals, they lose their professional identity. I lose all the factors which confirm this is my life. So this we can understand, it makes sense. But from a Dharma point of view, each of these events or procedures or patterns which we encounter arises from as an echo or a return of our own previous behavior. Things happen. What do they tell me about myself? I suffer. I don't want to suffer. I'm sure other people don't suffer so much. But then we can remember that with the Buddha's first teaching, he said, there is suffering. Suffering is a quality of our existence within the frame of duality. It's everywhere. But it shouldn't happen to me. My protest against the suffering is my specialness. I can see that there are people dying of starvation in Africa, but I still need to eat. And I can eat. Their suffering is not mine. But unfortunately, the corollary of that is, and my suffering is not theirs. I have my suffering. But if everyone has suffering, if suffering is the basic feeling tone that pervades so much of our world, then that's just how it is. Just like that. But why? This place we have been born into is pervaded by suffering. But why? Then we have the teachings on karma and so on, which shine a clarifying light on why I suffer. So this question, but why, can be asked in two ways. But help me understand, why do I suffer? That level of inquiry, that angle of entry into the issue might actually illuminate something new. But if I ask, but why? It closes the path to inquiry. I don't really want to know why. What I want to insist is it shouldn't happen. Yeah. So in terms of the relation between a spiritual path and therapy, because the spiritual path is not solely focused on the health of our ego, then the sufferings of the ego can be seen also as part of the spiritual path. Because we can be defined by what other people have done to us, by what we have done to ourselves, by what we have done to others. And whenever we have this definition, if that becomes my starting point, the orientation that I take up with that belief, like, for example, I wasn't loved by my parents, brings a particular reading of my place in the world. I get less than others. I am not as entitled as others. So then I might feel a bit depressed. Or I'm entitled to less than other people, and I might feel very angry about it. So as I explain my life history to myself, and I feel some advantages and disadvantages, I'm already a bit off balance when I come into the new situation. So in Dzogchen and Mahamudra, our starting point is to see that the truth of how we are is not something knowable. That is to say, I am not composed out of qualities which can be evaluated and given me a place in the world. Although this evaluation goes on in people's minds all the time, it's a subjective reaction. It doesn't tell me the objective truth about this situation. In fact, there is no objective situation about which we could have objectively accurate thoughts. And so, if we were to want to develop our spiritual path, primarily spending a lot of time on the various sufferings and lacks and frustrations that we've experienced in life would not be very helpful. These things happen. That's enough. We just need to put a full stop at that point. It's happening, full stop. We're following the movement of the arising of a sensation in the body or something you see outside you, and it's gone. What I can hang on to is my thought about what happened. Therapy in its early days was called the talking cure. When you're talking about what is happening or what has happened, you're talking about something knowable, something shareable. But in terms of meditation, we are concerned with the ungraspable immediacy of experience. And that's the main difference. For meditators, the fact that thoughts, feelings, memories, plans are all impermanent is their most important feature. Whereas in therapy, we visit the same historical incident again and again, as if there was some gold hidden inside it. So from the spiritual point of view, when we say, oh, these things happen, don't make them so important, it's not to dismiss them as being of no significance at all. Rather, it's to say that, if I need reading glasses, I go to the optician and they see what strength of lens I need to have. If the lens is too strong, it's not helpful. If it's too weak, it's not helpful. So in the same way, if you can't directly see what a thought is, then you keep looking after it, trying to follow it, trying to work out what it is. Why was I so worried about that? What's going on for me? But actually, it's gone. So that's the main difference, that if you follow the path of therapy, it brings you back to the present moment in a dualistic sense. I'm here in this situation in my life, and I'm now more able to connect with the variables involved. So in therapy, we're wanting to be present as someone, to be authentic, to be fully myself. Whereas through spiritual path, especially Buddhist spiritual path, we're concerned to be present. In some of these paths, it will suggest that presence is something you can cultivate and develop. And sometimes it's seen as something which is intrinsic and you just have to put yourself in the way of it. Okay, then the next question. How would God be called in this tradition in the sense of the origin and essence of all? Vajrasattva, Samantabhadra, Rigpa? This kind of question could be just a very big headache. God the Creator is not a notion you have in Buddhism. The force which creates everything is ignorance of the ground. The origin of all, to originate, to have a beginning. So we take a traditional example. We have the waves in the ocean. You see wave after wave after wave. The ocean is the origin of the wave. But the wave doesn't come out of the ocean. The wave is a mode or an aspect of the ocean. So when God in the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic traditions gives rise to the world, there is God and there is the world he makes. And some people think God then left the world, or God is somehow sitting on the sidelines watching what happens. Because if there is something, somebody must have made it. So Buddhist Dharma goes in completely the opposite direction. There are no self-existing entities. God didn't make anything. The thought of God makes God. God is only a name put by your mind. The origin of everything is emptiness. Emptiness is not a special pure form of entity, because all phenomena arise in relation to other phenomena. They lack independent existence. There are no things, but there are potentials which are mutually activating. So Vajrasattva doesn't do that, neither does Samantabhadra. They are aware of how it is, but they are neither the same as nor different from how it is. Rigpa, or awareness, also is not some site of knowledge or examination. Rigpa reveals how it is. If you don't have Rigpa, you have Marigpa, non-Rigpa, or unawareness. And when you don't know how it is, then you imagine how it is. So from this point of view, God is the great liar. He makes things which don't come into existence and wants everyone to believe that they truly exist. Oh, it's very important to try not to import a lot of Western philosophical or theosophical ideas and put them into Buddhist teachings. Otherwise, you get a headache. So the next question, when practicing Dzogchen, do we still take refuge? For many years, I have followed a different Tibetan lineage. Do I simplify my refuge prayers and pray to a generic Buddha, or do I change lineages? I seem to be transitioning. Well, we take refuge because we need help. If we are not relaxed and abiding without effort in non-dual awareness, then we need refuge because we are in danger. What sort of danger? The danger of being pulled into reification and solidification. So 2 days ago, when I woke in the morning, my wrist was very, very sore. Thinking, what has happened? I had no memory of hitting my hand. So I could look for more details or less. Because if I look for less, I just think, oh, it's just something. I have no idea what kind of something, just anything. It will either get better or worse. So nothing to think about. From that point of view, we are taking refuge in the Dzogchen view. I have a hand, my hand is hurting, I don't like this hurt, what should I do? But who is the experiencer of the pain? It's arising here and now. If the pain stops, I don't think about it. If the pain comes back, I think about it. Is it the same pain that has come back? It couldn't be, because it was there and it vanished, didn't go anywhere, and now another pain has come. So at this point, if I think, oh, I have to take refuge in my thoughts, now I need to analyze why my hand might be hurting 1 minute and then not the next. It's tempting to do that. It gives me knowledge about my situation. And many people use this inquiry as a way of trying to get a kind of protection. At least I understand what's happening to me. But what was happening? The pain is there and not there simultaneously. It's a movement. It's a revealing of a pulsation. So what would give me protection? What would refuge be in relation to life experience? So when we sit and we relax, this is occurring. This is occurring, but not to anyone. It's not occurring to me, because that's an interpretation I add after the fact. Sensations, memories, plans arise and pass. If I rest truly in this open awareness, I'm not blocking whatever is occurring, but I cannot be caught by it either. So in Dzogchen, this is taking refuge in your mind as it is. This is not the same as taking refuge in lineages or different deities. It is taking refuge in one's non-duality with the unborn. So I think if you're interested in Dzogchen, you simply can do this 3-hour Guru Yoga. It contains everything within it. And if you have other practices that you know and that you've used to do regularly, the key thing is to sit with them and to really see what function do they have? What are they opening up in me, or what are they permitting me to do in a country like in Tibet? Being Buddhist, having a lineage, having some Dharma knowledge was offered a recognizable identity in that social field. But in our culture, these small identities simply become ways of differentiating ourselves from other Buddhists. You have to remember, we take refuge for ourselves because I need help. Then hopefully we find out how we need help and why we need help. It's the refuge is to be applied. You take refuge in Padmasambhava, and then you see everything you see is the form of Padmasambhava. Everything you hear is the sound of Padmasambhava and his mantra. And every thought and feeling and memory that arises in your mind is not different from the mind of Padmasambhava. So that's another way of having refuge. That you get a more accurate identification of what is occurring. So Padmasambhava is the embodiment of appearance and emptiness. And if you keep doing the meditation practice on Padmasambhava, you can gain the direct feeling. Yes, so many things appear, and yet they have no substance to them. I don't need protection from them. So that's the most profound refuge. My mind is inseparable from emptiness. My mind is Vajra, indestructible. It's not a thing. My ego self needs protection from events and thoughts and people. But the mind itself has no need of protection. So, on the level of the mind itself, which doesn't need protection, this is the Dharmakaya. And the potential of the mind itself, the luminosity or the bright, ungraspable appearance of memories, thoughts, and so on. This is not in opposition to open awareness. So the key thing is to always look for each of the vehicles or the styles of practice. There is a view, a meditation, an activity, and a result. Okay, so the next question is, please talk about karma and evidence of past and future lives. There are many accounts in the Buddhist tradition of people's previous lives. The most famous collection of these is called the Jataka Tales. These are the stories of the forms that that Buddha Shakyamuni had in previous lives. And the accounts of these lives are made up of stories which have some ethical point to make. They're often encouraging us to go beyond what appears to be the boundary of possibility for myself. So in a previous life, to being Prince Siddhartha, in his life as a bodhisattva, the one who would become Buddha was wandering in what we would now call Nepal. And he was wandering in the low hills to the east of Kathmandu. And as he's walking along, he heard a moaning sound. And he saw there was a lioness which had recently had many pups. And they were scrabbling at her breasts, which were very thin with no milk in them. The lioness was fading away. She was going to die. So this bodhisattva put his hand in the lioness's mouth and said, you can eat me. And the lioness chewed a bit on his hand, but she didn't have the strength to break through the skin. So the Buddha took a sharp stone and he opened the veins on his arm and held the blood into the mouth of the lioness. Gradually, she drank more and more blood and became stronger. And then she was able to start eating the bodhisattva. Well, that's probably not something any of us would like to do. It's nice to imagine making a sacrifice, but to actually do it to the point where you think, oh yeah, you will live and I will die. I will die for you. And to do it in a quiet place where no one will know what you're doing, this is quite a radical action. So we have many stories which would indicate that on the basis of good actions, good results come later. On the basis of bad actions, bad results come later. Now, there are all sorts of discussions in Buddhism about what exactly is it that goes from one life to the next. Given from the Buddhist point of view, we don't have an individual soul, an individual self, which is an enduring marker of our own true identity. I am not going into a future life. Or rather, my clothes are not going into a future life. Because just as on a relative level, I can say, I have a shirt, I have a skin body, and I cover it with a shirt. If I lose a shirt, I get another shirt. Well, in a parallel kind of way, I have a body, and this body is resting on the presence of awareness. This is the vitality of life. Without this vitality, we wouldn't be alive. Awareness meets the male and female essences, and so the life process begins. But when we look for our mind, we can't find it. So we have a manifesting potential, which, when it's examined, doesn't reveal any underpinning essence. So this is not exactly a proof, but for me personally, any time I look to try to establish the true shape of my mind, or whether it's big or small, or what its defining qualities are, these qualities don't catch the heart of me. They are finite and situationally generated. But the mind itself is infinite. The reason we can't catch it is not because it doesn't exist at all. It's that it doesn't exist as a finite substance. So many events can arise simultaneously in the mind. If you go out in the countryside and a storm is gathering, there are clouds, the wind's shaking the trees, the leaves are flying in the wind. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of events occurring all at once, and you're with them. Your mind is big enough to contain all of that. So it's not that I, James, go from one life into the next, but rather this awareness, which is always here and now, always shows what is here and now. So here and now, I'm sitting looking at a computer screen. I'm aware of the electric light in the room and so on. And if I start to get a heart attack and die, then in this very here and now, my perception of the room will decline. And the breath is slowing. I'm dying. What is dying? It's the display of the process of dying, just as you have the display of the process of life. Events illuminated by awareness, which can also simultaneously be events obscured by dualistic consciousness. As long as the mind is not resting in awareness, there will be karma. Karma arises from the interaction of a subject and an object. Either can act on the other. So each polarity can be proactive or reactive. Well, this is the basis of karma. Karma simply means activity, and it's that activity of action-reaction which generates all that we experience. Well, karma is the influence of past experiences on present experience. Okay, then next question. Within awareness, is the noticing or the registering, as you call it, I call it, maybe, a different thing from thinking or conceptualizing about appearances? How is it different? How subtle is the distinction between the two ways of seeing things? It's very difficult to describe awareness in language. Language is the technique of duality. I see you. I hear you. So there is these two points which are connected, self and other. If you are in your skin bag, identified as I, me, myself, then you notice things happening to you. You might notice, oh, it's getting colder. You might notice you're tired. Something is touching me. Something is happening to me. So I notice something. Now, when we're talking about non-dual awareness, an event is occurring, but it's not happening to me. It's happening, and awareness reveals it happening. It's not my awareness, a quality that I have. Rather, the intrinsic awareness, the basic noetic or knowing capacity of the mind is always with us. But it's very non-interventionist. It just shows. It shows the other arising. As with our familiar example of the mirror. Some object is placed in front of the mirror, the reflection arises immediately. The mirror has the potential to instantly show images. They don't have to be constructed. So in that way, whatever is being experienced is instantly here, and the two parallel roads of something substantial happening and just an event, they're very close together. So for the Dzogchen practice, we're sitting, we're not trying to make anything happen, we're not trying to hang on to anything which has happened. There's the event, and it's gone. Now, what we could accurately call that process in language, I'm not sure. Because usually if I say I noticed it, there's something I notice. What did you notice? So it's not noticed as something, it's not registering as something. So just as if we were doing basic body scanning, as you're taking your attention from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet, different occurrences occur. What occurred? An occurrence. Now, that might seem a stupid tautological expression. It's not saying anything. But if I say, oh, what occurred was a pain on my right shoulder. Well, that wasn't occurring. Some sensation was occurring, which I then named a pain in my right shoulder. So for the Dzogchen practice, the purpose of doing this kind of body scanning is to see that when you really look, without judgment, without reification, each event is ungraspable. It is undeniable and ungraspable. There's feeling, what is it? It's a pain, my pain, this old pain. But these words don't really reveal the immediacy of it. The immediacy of the event is always ungraspable. What we grasp is the story. And for human beings, language is very important. A big marker of our becoming fully human is that we learn to speak, and then we learn to listen properly to what other people say, and to read and write and so on. So what we're doing in the practice is, if you like, a non-isolating, non-solidifying being with whatever is occurring. So actually, as my teacher said again and again, you cannot clarify these points in words. You have to do the meditation practice, because it's actually beyond language. And it's a very subtle difference between a reifying and a non-reifying approach. So our general approach is to do less in order to experience more. Okay, then the next question, please elaborate on the meaning of the Tibetan word damtsik when used in the context of a student-teacher relationship. Dam means, it can mean a bond, something final, a kind of concluding or bonding. And then the second word is tsik, which means like a word. So it's a word which binds two people or two patterns together. Well, the basic idea is that a lot of what the teacher will say is mad. So being educated people who have learned some basic capacity for rational thought, it's going to be quite difficult to hang out with an irrational teacher. So the basic damtsik is, I will believe you. So the damtsik or the vow or the bonding is given by the teacher to the student, but the student then has to accept it. Yes, I accept my bond with you. Now, this means I trust your mind more than I trust my mind. That's a big step. If I go to the dentist and he starts by picking around with this little metal prod to see if the gums are okay, the top of the gums, there is some sensation. This is unpleasant, but it's good for me. The dentist isn't cruel. I have some exposed nerve endings. The reason I experience pain when the dentist is poking is because of the poor state of my teeth. So it's the same. The guru can say and do many things which are very difficult, maybe very painful for the student. Now, if I judge the teacher, I put the teacher in my box. I bring them into my frame of reference. I feel that my interpretive system is able to account for everything, including the bad behavior of the guru. But my own thoughts have brought me a lot of trouble. In various situations in my life, I have thought I was making a very wise choice. But after some months, it became clear I made a not very wise choice. So maybe I shouldn't trust my own mind so much. Now, the people I may have hurt with my opinions, they can tell me what's wrong with my mind on the basis of their way of interpreting the events of samsara. But it may well be that they are more confident than they are accurate. So I can't trust me, I can't trust my friends, I can't trust my parents. I have to trust the guru, but why is the guru strange? So really our question then is, could I in some way see what the guru sees? Could I hear what it is that the guru hears? Many times Siya Lama behaved in ways which were very challenging. I went to an academic conference with him in India. We went with his wife and his eldest daughter. And there was the morning session. And Siya Lama got disturbed by something that people were saying. So when we went into the hall to eat, he didn't sit quietly and eat his food. He got up and went around shouting at people. His wife was very unhappy. His daughter looked quite alarmed. I was in my usual state of alarm around the guru. There was no rational reason to be shouting because these were all respectable academics. Later he was saying, these people are all asleep, that's why I shout at them. These academics, they know all the words, but they don't see what it means. So from his point of view, he was doing his best to try to wake them up. And from their side, they were just wishing that he would shut up. His damtsik with his teacher was to maintain the presence of Padmasambhava. And the reason it's stressed so much in the practice is because it brings you into conflict with the world. The way that human beings make sense of what is good, what is bad, what is socially acceptable, what is not. These thoughts will destroy Dharma practice. So when we see everything is a form of Padmasambhava, it's an appearance and emptiness. The fact that I feel sure that this event is bad or harmful doesn't mean that it is really, truly harmful, but it is harmful in the manner of a dream. If you don't know that you're dreaming, the events in the dream seem very real. When you wake up, you realize, oh, nothing really happened. So the damtsik is the way of installing this clarity right at the heart of every experience you had. Everything is an illusion. Now, when Siya Lama was shouting at the conference, why would he bother? It's an illusion. It doesn't matter. We were in a nice place. We were in Sarnath, the beautiful grounds where there are peacocks and deer, where the Buddha gave his first teaching. But every situation has a potential for not teaching, but for showing the Dharma clarity. Oh, I believe that's what Siya Lama was doing. He's saying, this is sound and emptiness. This is appearance and emptiness. This is the primordial, unchanging clarity of each and every moment. It's not what you think it is. So in the beginning stages, the damtsik is that we hear what the teacher says and we apply it to ourselves and we don't stray from it. And as we develop in the path, that aspect of the damtsik, the vow, continues, but also we have more responsibility to share our lives with others, to show that we get lost. we get confused. And this also is an illusion. Everything is without an inherent existence. It exists in its interaction with other selfless phenomena. Oh, this is the root damtsik, the unborn nature of all occurrence. And if we keep this in our heart, then we immediately see the true nature of whatever is occurring. We have many political situations at the moment, wars, big elections happening, and so on. They are important in the sense that they import some meaning or some impact into your world, but they are not real. They are illusion. So if we can keep this clarity, then we maintain our vow. Okay, so that's the end for today, and we've got a couple of Saturday meetings coming and some more Q&A. So thank you to our translators, to our organizers, and to ourselves, and to our madness. It's a good idea to be a little bit mad. Not to take life too seriously. Good. Okay. The end of the day. Very nice to see your faces. Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Good night, my dear.
Trzymajcie się wszyscy.
Bye.
Bye.